Before sunrise, on the 19th of February, 1945, the sea around Iwo Jima shook under heavy American bombing. Huge warships fired shell after shell into the small volcanic island, while smoke covered the sky. On crowded transport ships nearby, thousands of young American Marines stood silently waiting to land. Some prayed quietly, others smoked their last cigarette with shaking hands. In the distance, Iwo Jima looked dark and lifeless, but beneath the rock and ash, thousands of Japanese soldiers were waiting underground. American leaders believed the island could be captured in less than a week. Iwo Jima was small, only 21 square kilometers, but it stood between American bases in the Pacific and Japan itself. Japanese radar stations on the island warned Tokyo whenever American bombers approached. Japanese aircraft based there could also attack American planes and ships. Admiral Chester Nimitz and General George Marshall believed the island had to be taken before the invasion of Japan could continue. But General Tadamichi Kuribayashi had spent months preparing the island for exactly this moment. Kuribayashi knew Japan could not stop the full strength of the United States forever. Instead, he wanted to make the battle so costly that America would think twice before invading the Japanese mainland. As historian John Keegan later wrote, a strong defense can break an army long before it runs out of soldiers. Under Kuribayashi's command, Japanese troops dug nearly 18 kilometers of tunnels beneath the island. Hidden bunkers, artillery positions, and command rooms were built deep underground inside the volcanic rock. Korean laborers and Japanese workers spent months digging through heat, dust, and poisonous sulfur fumes. Some tunnels went more than 20 meters below the surface. American bombs destroyed much of the island above ground, but many Japanese positions survived untouched below. At 8:59 in the morning, the first American landing boats reached the beaches. The Marines jumped into thick black volcanic sand that swallowed their boots with every step. Tanks became stuck almost immediately. Men carrying rifles, radios, and flamethrowers struggled forward through ash and smoke while damaged landing craft burned behind them. For a few moments, there was almost no enemy fire. Some Marines thought the bombing had destroyed the Japanese defenses. Then everything changed. Machine guns suddenly opened fire from hidden bunkers across the island. Mortars exploded among crowded groups of Marines. Artillery shells crashed into the beaches, throwing sand, steel, and bodies into the air. Soldiers dropped everywhere around the shoreline. Some drowned in the surf because their heavy equipment pulled them underwater before anyone could save them. The Japanese defenders were difficult to see. Kuribayashi had ordered his men to stay hidden inside caves and tunnels until the Americans came close. Soldiers would appear from small openings, fire quickly, then disappear underground again. Every hill seemed to hide another machine gun. Every bunker led to another tunnel. Still, the Americans pushed inland. Above the beaches stood Mount Suribachi, a steep volcanic mountain filled with Japanese bunkers and sniper positions. Marines climbed the mountain under constant fire, while grenades and flamethrowers blasted caves around them. Smoke rolled across the slopes day and night. The smell of sulfur, burning fuel, and death filled the air. At night, the battlefield became even more frightening. Wounded soldiers cried out in the darkness, while exhausted Marines dug shallow foxholes into loose volcanic ash. Japanese soldiers sometimes crawled between American lines after dark, attacking suddenly before disappearing again. Few men slept. Fear spread through the island like the smoke from the explosions. After 4 days of brutal fighting, American Marines finally reached the top of Mount Suribachi. On February 23rd, they raised the American flag above the mountain, while photographer Joe Rosenthal captured the famous image that would become one of the most recognized photographs of the war. But the battle was far from over. North of the mountain, the Americans entered the strongest Japanese defensive area on the island. The Marines called it the Meatgrinder. Hidden artillery, machine guns, and bunkers covered every approach. Tanks exploded in narrow valleys. Entire groups of soldiers were pinned down behind rocks and craters for hours at a time. In some places, the dead were left where they fell because trying to recover them meant certain death. American tactics slowly changed. Special Sherman tanks, fitted with flamethrowers, moved toward caves and tunnel entrances, shooting long streams of burning
forward from tunnel openings, while explosions echoed beneath the rock. Even then, many Japanese soldiers continued fighting. Kuribayashi refused to surrender. Moving through the underground tunnels, he encouraged his surviving men to resist until the end. Historian Ibn Khaldun once wrote that soldiers with no escape often fight harder than anyone else. On Iwo Jima, that proved true. By the end of the battle, more than 6,800 Americans had been killed and over 19,000 wounded. Of roughly 18,500 Japanese defenders, almost all died on the island. On March 26, 1945, Iwo Jima was officially declared captured. Burned tanks, destroyed bunkers, and bodies covered the volcanic landscape. Yet even after the battle ended, some Japanese soldiers stayed hidden inside caves for years after the war itself was over. The captured airfields later allowed damaged American bombers returning from Japan to land safely, saving thousands of aircrew lives. Even today, historians still debate whether the cost of taking Iwo Jima was worth it. But for the men who survived the battle, the memory of the island never faded. They remembered the black sand pulling at their boots. They remembered mountains that seemed to fire from inside the earth itself. They remembered the cries of wounded men in the darkness and the smoke drifting across the beaches. And they remembered how such a small island became one of the deadliest battlefields of the Second World War.